Hello, today's video is very important. I'm going to show you how to win at rock, paper, scissors. This is really cool. So there's this notion that human beings are not good at generating random numbers. So what do we mean by that? Like if we played rock, paper, scissors completely randomly, then it wouldn't be that interesting because on average, you'd win a third of the time, you'd lose a third of the time, and you would tie a third of the time. And that's not that interesting. But when human beings generate random numbers, they tend to be correlated, which means the next number you generate depends on the previous number. Like if I roll a rock, I'm less likely to roll a rock the second time or the subsequent time. But if they were truly random, each one is independent of the next. And human beings struggle with that. And I actually solicited help from my friends. I made a video asking people, please give me a list of human-generated numbers. So I posted that on YouTube, and it was actually kind of weird. People replied with a string of random numbers, 1, 2, or 3. I didn't tell them what it was for. I said, just give me a bunch of 1, 2s, and 3s. Just a random string of 1, 2s, and 3s. I didn't tell them what it was for. But what I was going to do, what I did, is map the 1 to rock, 2 to paper, 3 to scissors, and play rock, paper, scissors against this algorithm that I'm about to describe to you. That's a good strategy for rock, paper, scissors. And so people were replying on YouTube, but YouTube was filtering those comments. So I'd get a notification that they gave the comment, but then it wouldn't show up in the video. But because of the notification, I was able to actually get the comments. But then I also did it on Facebook. Since YouTube wasn't posting all the comments, I went and asked my friends on Facebook and got more feedback on Facebook. So 43 people replied with strings of 1, 2s, and 3s, and then I played it against this algorithm. So here's the algorithm. Whatever the person throws, the next round you throw what would have lost to that. So everybody should know the rules of rock, paper, scissors. Rock smashes scissor, paper covers rock, and scissors cut paper. And so there's no dominant thing to throw. Each thing wins to one thing and loses to one thing. So here's the strategy. I'll repeat it. The strategy is play in the next round, play what would have lost to what they threw. So if they throw a rock this round, the following round you play what would have lost to that. So you play a scissor. So the strategy is because they're less likely to throw a rock the second time. So the next round, they're more likely to throw either a paper or a scissor. So what happens is you're more likely to either tie or win by playing what would have lost to them. And so this is my hypothesis, and I'm going to show you the results. I ran it through on these 43 data sets of people giving me random numbers, and it turns out it is a pretty good strategy. So the strategy, the theory is because they're less likely to throw the same thing twice in a row, you play what would have lost to that, and then you will only win or tie. But of course that breaks down. If they do play the same thing twice, then you're guaranteed to lose because you just played what would have lost to their move. But, it's something to think about. It's something to try when you're doing rock, paper, scissors. So now let's go take a look at the analysis of the 43 random number strings that I got from people. And I made it very clear when I was asking for the random numbers. I said, you have to generate them. They shouldn't be real random numbers, because if they're real random numbers, then it's not very interesting. You just win a third of the time, lose a third of the time, and tie a third of the time. It's the human mind that doesn't like repeats that makes this algorithm work. Let's take a look. Okay, so I asked people on Facebook and my YouTube channel to give me a random list of 1, 2s, and 3s. I didn't tell them what it was for. I just said, give me a random reply of 1, 2s, and 3s. So my friend Scott M, he's my biggest supporter. He was the first one to reply. He gave me a string. Bunch of people gave me strings. And then the weird thing about YouTube was that YouTube was blocking the comments. They thought they were like weird comments or inappropriate or robots replying or whatever. But the good thing is under my notifications under YouTube, I could see them even though they never made it to the screen. Okay, so this is what people played. So now I'm going to run, there's 43 of these replies, and I'm going to run each of them against the algorithm. And the algorithm plays what would have lost to their number. So we map a 1, 2, and 3 to rock, paper, and scissors. And then we play my algorithm where, okay, so the first move we're not counting because I always need to look back at the previous move. And then so I'm reporting on the second move on where I play what would have lost to their move. So let's look at, so here are the results by person. So what I'm reporting is the percent of wins of the person. So when the person loses, that means my algorithm wins. And over here, the people are winning. That means they're beating my algorithm. So the people that beat the algorithm mean they have lots of repeats, because I always play what loses to what you just played. So if you repeat, then my algorithm is guaranteed to lose. So 10 people were able to beat the algorithm, and the other 33 people lost or tied to it. So that's a pretty good sign. That means that the algorithm is pretty good. If we look up here at the winners, my friend Perry, he's an expert in Monte Carlo and random numbers, and he did really good. He beat the algorithm. But then again, my godmother beat him, and she doesn't know anything about Monte Carlo or random numbers. So pretty cool. And these people that really got destroyed, they were totally no repeats at all. Like Keith and Judy, there were no repeats, so my algorithm really beat it. So here are the results of the tournament, sorted by wins minus lost. So here's what Keith and Judy played: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they lost 95% of the time. And this person, Arthur P., he also played 1, 2, 3. What did he play? 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. He lost 50% of the time. So people that had no repeats lost big time. And then if we go down to the people that started winning, like Patricia Yu, she had lots of repeats. Look at all these 1s, all these 3s. So she won 40% of the time. And Dr. Monte Carlo here had lots of repeats, and he did very well too. Perry. I'm here. I just wanted to play my algorithm against a random opponent to show that my algorithm does not do good if you're truly random. So I'm using NumPy to generate random numbers. And here when we play 10 million rounds of rock, paper, scissors, we win 1/3 of the time, we tie 1/3 of the time, and we lose we lose 1/3 of the time. And this is the metric, wins minus losses. That's the metric I was plotting up here. So the algorithm does not perform well against truly random inputs. What's the next thing I wanted to show? Now let's analyze everyone all at once. Let's form one giant string out of everybody's replies. So I'm taking all 43 replies and concatenating them into one giant game and seeing how we did against this algorithm. So that's this line here. So there were 1,938 random numbers. Remember, we skipped the first one because we need to look backwards in order to play. And so the algorithm, this is reporting how well the humans did. So the humans only won 25% of the time, but they lost 35% of the time. So the wins minus loss, they lost 175 times more. So this is a pretty clear signal that this is a good algorithm to play against human beings. This wins minus loss should be pretty close to 0, but it has a 9.9% swing that the algorithm is winning, because this is framed from the human's point of view. The human lost minus 9% of the times compared to the algorithm. Yet 43 replies. The total length is 1,938. The average number of replies is 48 characters of 1s, 2s, and 3s. Now I just did the same thing with a random sequence of 1,938 random rock, paper, scissors. And this is just what we would expect. You win a third of the time, you tie about a third of the time, and you lose about a third of the time. So the wins minus losses is pretty close to 0. And of course, you get some statistical fluctuation. This will converge as we increase the number of games. And then I generated random numbers, but this time with no duplicates. So when I was generating the random string, I made sure that I never generated the same string in a row. And this is exactly what we expect. You don't win at all because my algorithm guarantees if you don't have any duplicates, the only thing you can do is tie or lose. And we see that it's about 50% chance of each. So anytime the person doesn't play any duplicates, this is a really good strategy. And if they play all duplicates, then this is the worst strategy. Let me just show you how this algorithm is implemented. If you've stuck around this far, then you like this kind of stuff. So since we're using computer, 0-based stuff is much simpler to deal with than 1-based. So 0 is a rock, 1 is a paper, and 2 is a scissors. And we have this, we're creating this outcome matrix where the row is what player 0 plays and the column is what player 2 plays. And then the value of the matrix tells us what happened. If the outcome is 0, then player 0 wins. If the outcome is 1, it's a tie. If the outcome is 2, player 0 loses. So don't get confused by rock, paper, and scissors. These are the indexes into this matrix, and then these outcomes tell us what to tally. 3 possible things can happen. You win, lose, or tie, and so this is telling us the outcome. So if you look along the diagonal, you tie when you play yourself, and then the win-loss rules are encoded in here. And then in order to play the algorithm, you need to know what it loses to. So we need this loses array so that the next move you play what the person lost to. And here's what loses to what. So the algorithm, here's the game play. So A is your array of moves. And so here we're looping over all the moves, but we're skipping the very first move. So it's really just a one-line body. So let's see if we can unpack this. So the result, there's only 3 things that can happen. You can win, lose, or tie. So we're just keeping track of those 3 things. How many times do we win? How many times do we lose? How many times do we tie? So that's what this result thing is, and we're adding 1 for each game. Okay, now this outcome matrix, A is the player, the row is what the player plays, and the column is what the algorithm does. So this is saying what we want to play is whatever loses to their previous turn. So AI is what they're playing this round. AI minus 1 is what they played the previous round. So we're playing what would have lost to them on the previous round. So if you unpack this whole statement, it's saying keeping track of wins, draws, and losses according to this algorithm. And then this analyze thing just counts up how many wins, ties, and losses there are. And here's the data set of all the data. And then I play that. I play everybody, and I sort it by their metric, how good they did. So Keith and Judy did the worst. Here was the string they played. They played 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they lost 95% of the time. The other thing that was kind of interesting, where is Vanessa? Look at what Vanessa played. She played 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, and she tied every single time. And remember, I didn't tell anybody what we were playing. I just said, give me a random list of 1, 2s, and 3s, and that's what she typed in, and it turns out this ties every single time. And then if we go down here, here's what Dr. Monte Carlo played. He has lots of repeats in there, which my algorithm is guaranteed to lose for repeats, long repeats. So he did pretty well. His wins minus losses were 40%. Oh no, sorry, that's Patricia. Perry's wins minus losses were 31%. But then my godmother won 40% of the time. and she's not a Monte Carlo expert, so, but she had lots of repeats. So the other thing, just for fun, I said, okay, let's have a tournament. I got 43 people. Let's have them all play each other. So this is everybody playing each other. So now this is not using the algorithm, but people gave strings of different lengths. Some people gave 20 numbers, some people gave 40 numbers, some people gave, all different numbers. So if you're playing somebody with a different length, I go by the maximum of the two players, and then I just repeat through the minimum guys. Just keep looping over his results over and over again to get to the maximum. And it turns out Olivia C is our big winner. Her wins minus losses was over 3%, and Vanessa was our loser. And so it's fairly even, in a pretty tight spread from minus 4% to plus 3% of the worst person to the best person. And they didn't know what they were playing, so this is just some kind of gobbledygook, some fun thing. And okay, I wrote this function 2 players. So this is the list of the first player's moves. This is the list of the second player's moves. And again, the loop body is just one thing. Here, the upper bound of the loop is whoever gave more random numbers, so we're taking the max of them. And then we need this modulo operator that cycles through all the results. So if we go, let's say the one guy had 100 moves and one guy only had 20 moves, this will just cycle through the guy that had 20 moves. And we're just keeping track of how many wins, ties, and losses from the first player's perspective. So with a one-line loop body, we can encode this really cool rock, paper, scissors algorithm that says, play whatever loses to what your opponent previously played. And this is taking advantage of the fact that human beings are bad at random number generators and less likely to run duplicates. So that may give you a slight edge in rock, paper, scissors by playing what would have lost to their previous move. And thank you very much, and have a good day.